Recently, there has been a veritable flurry of high-profile black entertainers being accused of anti-Semitism. This includes the artist formerly known as Kanye West and current presidential candidate who now goes by simply Ye.
It was a Jewish doctor.
Brooklyn Nets basketball star Kyrie Irving.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
And even beloved comedian Dave Chappelle.
It shouldn't be this scary to talk about anything. It's making my job incredibly difficult. And to be honest with you, I'm getting sick of talking to a crowd like this. I love you to death. And I thank you for your support. And I hope they don't take anything away from me. Whoever they are.
You've likely heard something about this, as these stories have received a lot of attention in the media. But what you may not also be aware of is that these are simply the latest entries into a pattern which goes back decades. I'm talking specifically of the pattern between successful black celebrities in the entertainment industry getting into trouble for publicly expressing their frustration with Jewish people. One of the earliest such instances was when Professor Griff was kicked out of the very successful rap group Public Enemy back in June of 1989.
When we was running down who owns the music industry and who owns the production companies and this, that, and the other. So when the interviewer, black man, asks a certain series of questions, I used to travel with suitcases full of books. Hell, I was a minister of information. So I came with 20, 30 books, and we was just kind of going over some of the information in the books. I think I had Henry Ford's book, The International Jew, The Octopus. So if you're talking about world wars, then who was responsible? If you're talking about who financed Hitler, who was responsible? If you're talking about the Civil War and you're talking about black people being brought over from Africa to America in the hulls of ships, who owned the insurance companies? Who owned the ships? And that's the kind of discussion we were having.
Not much later, the extremely successful actor and NWA rapper Ice Cube would have his own anti-Semitism scandals.
Cause you can't be the for life, crew, with a white Jew telling you what to do, pulling wolves with your scam. Now I gotta play the silence of the lamb. Get rid of that devil real simple. Put a bullet in his temple.
But you understand?
For me to be anti-Semitic in the business that I'm in would be economical disaster and suicide.
More recently, UK rapper Wiley was banned from Twitter for comments that he made.
I want to apologize for generalizing, number one, and I want to apologize for comments that were looked at as anti-Semitic. The music industry, batch of people I'm talking about, they're the ones who get to benefit from it. That's what this is all about. It's systemic racism from their side. What do you think? The system and that man and a community of Jewish lawyers and thingy have made me feel that way. Yes, they have. They've made me feel that way. Not anti-Semitic, they've made me feel angry and upset because they are showing me the systemic racism and privilege that they're allowed to use on us.
And on it goes. Nick Cannon, Freeze Corleone, Jay Electronica. We could keep going, but you get the idea. However, there is one man whose fame and stature dwarfs the people we have mentioned so far. Someone who is right up there with Elvis and the Beatles. I'm talking, of course, about the king of pop, Michael Jackson.
Hi, I'm Caroline Lillipali and this is the news at night. On tonight's show, Whitney Houston seeks legal help, wail on beautiful bodies, and M people search for their lyrics. But first, Michael Jackson has been forced to apologize to the Jewish community.
Now, I had previously heard that Michael Jackson had once expressed anti-Semitic sentiment and did my own investigation into the topic. However, I only looked at it from surface level, which revealed Michael Jackson had some song lyrics which could be interpreted as anti-Semitic, but that he later explained that wasn't his intent, that he actually wrote those lyrics to fight racism, and that it was simply misinterpreted. I had accepted this. However, a recent deep dive by Daily Veracity reporter David looks at the full history of this and tells us that the story may be more complex after all. And so that's what we're going to look at today, the full story behind the anti-Semitism of Michael Jackson. I'm sure Michael Jackson needs no introduction for most of you. He was a child star singing with the Jackson 5, then left to do his own solo career, which was extremely successful. As a pop musician, his songs didn't tend to carry a heavy message or be overtly political, and when they did, it tended to be the kind of schmaltzy stuff you would expect about love and unity. He had songs like Heal the World and Black or White, which was understood to be a message against racism. And so the million-dollar question is, why later in his career would Michael Jackson, like Ye, praise Hitler, calling the German dictator a genius? And why did somebody have a recording of a phone call with Michael Jackson where he was calling Jews leeches and alleging that they were engaged in a conspiracy to exploit black artists? It likely started around 1993 when he had a multi-million-dollar lawsuit brought against him for sexually molesting a minor. This lawsuit was brought by a man named Evan Chandler, a dentist and aspiring screenwriter who had just had his first script turned into a movie, Robin Hood Men in Tights, a movie which coincidentally featured Dave Chappelle's first appearance on the big screen.
There is no such thing as a coincidence.
Evan had divorced his wife, June, in 1985 after having a son together named Jordan. Evan's ex-wife, who was a huge Michael Jackson fan, had since married a man named David Schwartz. The strange details surrounding the Chandler family's introduction to Jackson in 1992 is chronicled in a now defunct blog called Turning the Tables on the ChandlerAllegations.com. It is extremely complicated and convoluted, so please understand that we are barely scratching the surface here. In a phone conversation recorded in the summer of 1993, Evan reveals his plan to David Schwartz, saying, "This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief, and he will not believe what's going to happen to him beyond his worst nightmares. He will not sell one more record."
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. This attorney I found, I interviewed several, and I picked the nastiest son of a bitch I could find. Once I make that phone call, this guy is just going to destroy everybody in sight. Any devious, nasty, cruel way that he can do it. And I've given him full authority to do that. It'll be a massacre if I don't get what I want. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. They will be destroyed. June is going to lose Jordy. She will have no right to ever see him again. Yeah. That's a fact, Dave. That's what's going to happen. Michael's career will be over. Does that help Jordy? Michael's career will be over. And does that help Jordy? It's irrelevant to me.
David asks Evan, "Does that help Jordy?" And Evan replies, "That's irrelevant to me." Evan's lawyer, Barry Rothman, went on to consult a Beverly Hills psychiatrist who had never met his son Jordan, named Dr. Mathis Abrams, who wrote a letter that stated, "Reasonable suspicion would exist that sexual abuse may have occurred." It was at this point that Jordan's father, Evan, drugged his own son with barbiturates in order to procure a confession that Jackson had molested him. Armed with this confession, Evan leveled the allegations against Jackson.
Exclusive first look at evidence that the biggest victim of all may have been Michael Jackson himself. Following 5 months of investigation and interviewing 50 people associated with the case, GQ senior writer Mary A. Fisher answers the question, did Michael do it? Her response, a resounding no.
In fact, he was framed in that he himself was the victim and of a carefully conceived plan to extract money from him.
Fisher claims that Evan Chandler, whose son alleges the abuse, gathered the molestation stories from the boy during a highly irregular session while using a drug which often creates false memories.
It was only after he was given this drug in Mr. Chandler's office, dental office, that he came out with the allegations against Michael Jackson. Before that, he had said nothing wrong had ever happened.
Although there was no evidence and Jackson vehemently denied the allegations, he went on to cut a deal with Chandler for $20 million in 1994 in an attempt to make the whole thing go away, a decision which Michael would come to deeply regret and would haunt him for the rest of his life.
Michael Jackson told me, in no uncertain terms, that settling that case in 1994 was the biggest mistake he'd ever made. He should never have settled it. He should have fought it through a trial. He would have won. It was an absurd case. But he was advised, he told me, by lawyers, by business advisors, to settle it and get rid of it, that he had bigger fish to fry, bigger projects to get involved in, that the money would be a drop in the bucket compared to what he was capable of making around the world, and that diverting everybody's attention because of the publicity attached to this civil case was a mistake. He followed his advisors', suggestions. He paid money. And what it really did was it opened Pandora's box, because suddenly everybody on the planet began suing him, thinking they could make an easy buck suing Michael Jackson.
Every person involved in this extortion scheme, the boy's father, Evan Chandler, who was born Evan Charmatz, the stepfather, David Schwartz, the lawyer, Barry Rothman, and the psychiatrist, Matthias Abrams, were all Jewish.
Coincidence.
I do not point out the fact that they're Jewish to suggest that this in some way proves their malevolence or anything like that. That would be silly, of course. I'm merely suggesting that understanding this fact may help us to understand why Michael Jackson was starting to feel some kind of way. A few months after Michael Jackson was murdered in 2009, Evan Chandler committed suicide. A couple years after the settlement, in 1995, Michael Jackson releases a new album called His Story, featuring a song titled They Don't Care About Us, which featured the lyrics, "Beat me, hate me, you can never break me, will me, thrill me, you can never kill me, Jew me, sue me, everybody do me, kick me, kike me, don't you black or white me." Jackson received heavy backlash and criticism over those lyrics, and according to the article in Daily Veracity, was not permitted to film his music video in the US, and so he took Spike Lee and flew to Brazil to make the video there. Now, in my cursory searching, I wasn't able to find any source for that claim, but I was curious what made him decide to work with Spike Lee, a famous movie director. So on a hunch, I googled Spike Lee antisemitism and discovered a 1990 article published in the New York Times by Spike Lee with the very normal title, "I am not an anti-Semite." In the article, Spike Lee is responding to and denying allegations that he is anti-Semitic because his recent film Mo Better Blues featured two Jewish villains who are the owners of a New York jazz club and are depicted in the movie as taking advantage of the black musicians that work for them. You know, a harmful stereotype.
We want you to be happy, Bleak. You're a great talent, but to tell you the truth, you got a lot of dead weight around your neck. It's dragging you down. And this so-called alter caca of a manager of yours, Giant? I mean, that's a joke. Is that a joke? It's a joke. You couldn't manage a little league team. Minor league. Hey, when you're ready for some real management, you come see us. I got a first cousin. He's top shelf. Top shelf. Hey, he's short, but he's smart. Yeah, we love the guy. And why shouldn't we? He's our cousin. Right. He handles only the best. Everything first class, all the way, just like Josh and me. First class. Filet mignon. Dom Perignon, first class.
Look, I'm not here to talk about Giant, okay? I'm here to talk about the great sums of money that you two are making off of my music and the very little that I see in return.
What you're talking about is management. Giant, your manager, was the one who negotiated this deal. That's right. One you agreed to.
And it's always been our business policy to never, ever...
Never.
...renegotiate the deal.
Look, Giant is my friend, okay?
We all need close friends.
But this is business.
Michael Jackson, of course, denied allegations that his song was in any way anti-Semitic. So I guess the fact that he just happened to hire a film director who himself had touched on this pattern, which is the theme of this entire video, which is Jewish music industry insiders in what some might call an exploitative relationship with black artists, probably all just another
coincidence.
And it's probably also a coincidence that that same music video contains a dance move that is sort of dangerously close to being a Nazi salute. I mean, that might be a little bit of a stretch, and in a different context, I would call that a reach, but given everything we know about this music video, I don't know. That dance move, a little bit sus, as the kids say. The ADL and other Jewish interest groups criticized Jackson for the song, and he eventually changed the lyrics and refilmed the music video, this time in a prison. Although Jackson censored the lyrics in They Don't Care About Us during his Story World Tour, his fashion style began to become more militarized and almost neo-fascist in its aesthetics. Bulletproof vests, riot shields, and military costumes that, according to many, resembled Nazi soldier uniforms. Lady Gaga actually came to possess one of Michael Jackson's outfits and wore it to a 2016 Hillary Clinton campaign rally where lots of people on Twitter were asking, why is Lady Gaga dressed up like a Nazi? It's around this time in the late 90s, early 2000s when Jackson is introduced to Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. According to LA Weekly, Boteach met Jackson through a mutual friend. It's not clear who this mutual friend was or what the motivations were, but it seems plausible that this unknown friend may have been concerned with the direction that Jackson was taking and wanted Boteach to influence the troubled pop star. Jacob Shmuel Boteach, also known as the rock star rabbi, is an American Orthodox Jewish rabbi, author, and television host who has written books titled Kosher Jesus, Kosher Lust, as well as Kosher Sex, excerpts of which were serialized and published by Playboy magazine in 1998. Boteach has participated in extensive political work and even ran for office. He currently serves as executive director of the World Values Network, which is described by Wikipedia as a Jewish pro-Israel nonprofit organization that he established in 2007. As a part of its outreach, the World Values Network has hosted many political speakers such as Cory Booker, Ted Cruz, Ron DeSantis, Tulsi Gabbard, Dr. Oz, Jeanine Pirro, and dozens of others to collect donations to fund newspaper advertisements to draw attention to anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias. One such newspaper campaign was targeted to attack the New Zealand singer Lorde, who in 2018 canceled a concert in Tel Aviv as part of the BDS movement. The organization spent over $1.3 million on such program expenses between 2016 and 2018. During this period, Boteach hosted Jackson at his house for Shabbat dinners and conversations, which, according to a posthumously released book, the rabbi asked Jackson, if you had an hour with Hitler, you think you could somehow touch something inside of him? To which Jackson replied, absolutely, I know I could. Nobody is all evil. It was during this conversation that Jackson also remarked that Hitler was a genius orator, which led to the Hitler was a genius headlines. Shmuley and Jackson had created a charity called Heal the Kids, which was ostensibly founded to give aid to children in need. However, some industry insiders believed it could have served as a pass-through to essentially pay off the rabbi for good publicity. Spending over $117,000 to host 2 lectures, one of them at Oxford University where Shmuley was stationed, according to the New York Post, another $300,000 was spent on salaries, benefits, and consulting, $50,000 on a now defunct website, and $103,000 on promotional costs, among other overhead costs. According to the Post, one ex-supporter said, for all the work Michael says he did for children, we never saw it. The friendship between Jackson and Shmuley lasted barely 2 years, eventually fizzling out completely between 2002 and 2003, with the rabbi quoted as saying, I'm not hanging around if I can't influence you positively.
What went wrong? Simple. Michael began to treat me like a nuisance. We were very close. We were like, for a while, joined at the hip. We went everywhere together, spoke it. But he began to see me as someone who was critical of him. And I was critical of him. And I just couldn't watch what he was doing to himself anymore.
Well, that means
and he began to recoil. You had to watch it to see it. It was unbelievable to watch. I would go into his room and I would say, you need to stop this. And he would almost cringe. He'd almost devolve into an embryonic position. He didn't know how to handle that kind of criticism. He had never experienced.
All right. Well, Rabbi Shmuley, I want to thank you for your time with us, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, and I appreciate your insights very much with us here on MSNBC Sunday.
Following the failed attempts at positive PR, Jackson was faced with a never-ending wave of accusations of pedophilia and molestation. Jackson eventually was acquitted of the charges. Coincidentally, during the second round of allegations, Sony was underhandedly attempting to restructure and steal Jackson's extensive music catalog from him. The royalties paid out for the rights to play his music on streaming services and radio stations are extremely lucrative and have generated over $4 billion during Jackson's life alone. Following the release of Jackson's album Invincible, Jackson had begun to speak publicly about what was happening not only to him, but to other black artists in the music industry at the hands of the corporations and the executives that led them. The record companies really do conspire against the artists, Jackson said at a public event in Harlem in 2002. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially against the black artists.
this is very important because throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of completely. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
In 2003, Jackson teamed up with the Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan in order to renegotiate his record deal. In a New York Times article by Sharon Waxman, an anonymous business associate claimed that Farrakhan was basically brainwashing him, continuing that they tried to do the same thing to Whitney Houston. The Nation of Islam, which is a black nationalist group, has been critical of the way black artists, athletes, and entertainers have been treated by corporations and executives, frequently drawing criticisms from groups like the Anti-Defamation League for being anti-Semitic. Farrakhan, or the Minister, has been sought out by many black leaders for counsel and support, including Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and Prince, all three of whom have died or been murdered under suspicious circumstances.
There is no such thing as a coincidence.
Following Jackson's battle against the record companies, Jackson became embroiled in a controversy again when in 2005 a recording of a phone call between Jackson and one of his lawyers made its way to the press. In it, Jackson can be heard saying, "They suck, they're like leeches, you end up penniless, the Jews do it on purpose."
Suck like leeches. I was so tired of it. They start out the most popular person in the world, make a lot of money, big house, cars, and everything, end up with penniless. It is conspiracy. The Jews do it on purpose.
Following the publication of this taped phone call, the Anti-Defamation League again called for Jackson to apologize, saying this time that he has an anti-Semitic streak. Abram Foxman, the director of the ADL, continued saying, "Every time he has a problem in his life, he blames the Jews. It is sad that Jackson is infected with classically stereotypical ideas of Jews as all-powerful, money-grabbing, and manipulative." When Jackson died, his murderer, Conrad Murray, appeared on CNN. The headline reads, "Conrad Murray, Jackson was penniless."
Okay, so let's talk about Michael. Since we have you here, I want to hear about this person you call your friend. You said you knew him better than anyone towards the end of his life, than anyone, correct?
Yes.
Did he share secrets with you?
Of course. The most hidden treasure trove of his life is with me. But I have protected Michael up till now.
Up till now?
Of course. Of course. I've said nothing that has been inflammatory about my friend. I protected Michael. You see, when I had a meeting at the house with AEG officials, and they pointed to Michael, the guy who could not pay me for months after taking care of him. And they said that he could not pay for the popsicle his daughters were using, the toilet paper that they were using to wipe their private areas, that he was penniless. I was shocked. As it was that time when Michael came to me trembling and trying to get me away from the AG official, who was Randy Phillips. I was shocked out of state. I should have just picked my bags up and leave had I been looking for money, but it wasn't money. It was about the love of Michael.
Besides music, fashion, and mutual condemnations from groups like the ADL, Jackson and Ye share an even deeper connection. Shortly after the release of Ye's album Graduation, the artist formerly known as Kanye West actually sat down with the king of pop in the home of cutthroat music mogul Liar Cohen. Ye said that it was actually Jackson that encouraged him to start singing more in his music.
Yeah, I sat with Michael Jackson. I met him over at Liar Cohen's house. And I just vibed out with him. And then, I think Michael the one that put that battery in my back to do 808s. I played Good Life. And he was like, "Who's that singing right there? I like that voice." It was my voice. He gassed me up. Next thing y'all know, y'all had me in the night here. I was like, Michael Jackson told me I could sing. Fuck all y'all, you know.
Ye mentions Michael Jackson in several of his songs, including the song Don't Like, where he raps, "The media crucify me like they did Christ. They want to find me not breathing like they found Mike."
Smile in my face is what I don't like. They steal your whole
find me like they did Christ. They wanna find me not breathing like they found Mike.
Let's have it, you. Now when I count 3.
That boy needs therapy.
Michael, eles não ligam pra gente.
With 2 children of my own, I know what it means to have to balance the demands of family and career. And let's not even talk about finding a date for myself, even though...
Don't worry about it, baby. Don't tell him, baby. Tell him, baby. Work him, baby. Work the room. Work him.
No, this... Even though Rabbi Shmuley keeps telling me that he's going to find me the perfect woman.
What line, Tony?
My response is, as long as it's not a journalist.
They told me when Professor Griff went nuts in Montreux, Switzerland, talking about the Caucasus Mountains and monkeys and everything like that. They told every single executive, Jewish executive, told me to drop Public Enemy and not work with them. You know what I did? I brought Chuck to the Holocaust Museum.